Kako. My name's Andrew Kalani Simeona.
My name is Ron Williams Jr.
My name is Sophie Sidhu, and I am a student programs coordinator here at East West Center.
I'm an MA candidate in Hawaiian Studies under Kamoku Kalani Center for Hawaiian Studies under Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge.
I came here from San Francisco about 25 years ago. I moved to Maui and started getting involved in learning a little bit about Hawaiian history, Hawaiian language. I knew it wasn't my place, I knew it wasn't my home, so I wanted to learn something. And that kind of initial interest sparked me to go back to school. I was 32 years old. I went back as a freshman at Maui Community College, and I had just some blessed teachers that taught me, more and more about Hawaii and about the Hawaiian people. It became a passion, and I ended up going to UH Manoa University. I was there for 12 years, and I ended up getting my PhD in Hawaiian history.
My favorite Hawaiian word.
There's a lot of words in Hawaiian that don't necessarily translate straight over, so it's hard to pick English words that match it up.
There's just so much words and so much really hidden meaning.
I happen to live in Nu'uanu Valley, so it's also connected to the area that I live in. It's a really beautiful area with surrounded by beautiful, cool mountains. So I feel very connected to Anuhea.
Makavalu.
Iini is a passionate desire for something, like a craving for something, and not in a negative way, but in a way that whether it's something you love to do or whether it's somebody, it's this physical craving for something or some knowledge.
Seeing things through different lenses and perspectives.
So it's very important to me. So my children have been born and raised here, and for them, as they continue to grow, to learn about where they are.
I could mimic and I could copy, very, very easy, especially with movement. And one of my aunties was just like, okay, come with me to hula. I think for me, and how it kind of shaped me, because there was a lot of tension within my family because they see me, practicing culture, practicing language, hula, learning our history. They see me doing all this, but they're just like, oh, that's useless stuff. What is that gonna do to bring food on the table?
I'll give myself credit for, I'm not brilliant, but I work hard. I've been in the archives, 4 or 5 days a week for the last 20 years. And I've seen, a lot of stuff, and I've read a lot of stuff. That's given me a context for events. I think that's where it helps most, is where some folks will go in for a couple weeks and get this fact and this fact and this fact. I've been in it enough where now I have a context of why this is all happening and how it relates to that and so forth. That said, you can pick my best topic and there's still a million things I haven't seen. So about 5 years ago, I was working on a project across the street at the Judiciary Center, where the State Supreme Court is, and they have all the old judiciary records. And I came across, they hired me to redo their master narrative through Hawaiian language sources. So what's the judicial history of Hawaii? And so I worked on that for 2 or 3 years, and I was able to get into their archives, and I found these photographs of the 1895 Kawaku Loko prisoners. The oldest guy arrested was 81, the youngest was 13. And when I was over there, I came across the booking photos. These men, they're actual photos of them coming into prison. And I found the one of the guy, his name was Kalua. He was a 13-year-old boy that went to prison for serving his queen. And so I was, how am I going to use these? How am I going to bring these back to the community? It's a very sensitive topic. They're prisoners, so forth and so on. I was going out to Hilo to do a talk on La Kokoa, and I said, I'm going to bring them there. I'm going to share them with the community there. And I hope it goes well. And so there's about 200 or 300 people, and I did my normal talk, and then I said, I'm going to share this with you also, and I told them the story of the photos, and I just ran them like a slideshow. And my good friend, Kalani Akea Wilson, was sitting in the front row with his wife, and she starts bawling. And I was just like, oh crap, that's exactly what I didn't want to happen. I shouldn't have done this, I knew I shouldn't have done this. So I went to talk to her afterwards and apologize. And she said, no. She said, I'm glad you showed those. She goes, that second to last slide you showed was my great-grandfather. And she said something that really kind of so brilliant and kind of encapsulated all of this stuff. And she was like, when I saw his photo, my great-grandfather's photo in prison for supporting the Queen, I realized that was the first of the Hawaiians in my family to go to prison. So then you start thinking about intergenerational trauma.
This new cohort within CBI, there's 2 words that come into mind and that I would in a heartbeat share with them. It's one, when you're listening to someone, like, be open-minded, be very open-minded, and you know, be empathetic about, you know, what they're telling you, because they're spending their time, and even you know, those stories and those knowledges that have been passed down to them, you know, they like they're passing that on to you. So like, be open-minded and be like understanding.
You have a very unique opportunity here, which I'm sure you all are aware of. That's why you're here, to live in community as graduate students. This doesn't happen often, and in such a diverse community as well, of folks who have a lot of shared values by virtue of being here in the East-West Center. And my best advice for your first year here as you get settled particularly is to lean on one another, and graduate school and adjusting in whatever way you're adjusting, whether you're from Hawaii but you're adjusting to starting a graduate program and living here on campus, or whether you're from anywhere else, there's a cultural adjustment. And as you're going through that process, it can be isolating and it can be lonely, and you might be physically very far from home or loved ones, but to rely on each other and open up space where you can share with each other, not just your accomplishments, but also your concerns or your feelings of loneliness or your desires of things that you may wish to maybe replicate as you're missing home in terms of building community. So yeah, you all have such a great resource here in one another.
Be humble. You know, the way you're taught is different in Hawaii, in the old Hawaii, than in the U.S. You know, I can tell you what number I was. I was 137 of a class of 400 in high school. Like, what does that mean? Like, you know, in Hawaii, classes are taught as a class. And if somebody's struggling, the rest of the classmates help them and bring them forward. And everybody graduates and everybody's happy. It's not who's the best, who's the second best, who's the third best. So, and what that filters into is our work as teachers, as historians, all that stuff. Most folks, not most, a lot of, especially non-Hawaiian folks in Hawaii who are doing Hawaiian history, it's a competition. Who knows the most? Who has the most followers on their blog posts and so forth? The objective should be, how do we get the information out to the people? Who cares? It's not a competition. And so I would say be humble and don't worry about, you know, I'm gonna be the best. You know, my goal isn't to be on some panel at Yale being known as the best guy in the world in Hawaiian history. My objective is to get as much information as I can out to the community from their own ancestors. And so when you start every project and you humble yourself and you say, okay, how much of this is me showing off? Now, I'll give an asterisk to that that's very, very, very important. And that is, you know, find a good kumu who's gonna help you understand what your kuleana is. Kuleana is a word that's amazing. I should have said that was my favorite word. It means privilege and responsibility. So if somebody says, you know, it's your kuleana to take out the trash, it's your responsibility to take out the trash. It's your kuleana to run the family, right? It means both those things. The more responsibility you have, the more privilege you have. The more privilege you have, the more responsibility you have.